Yeah, at the back? Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Matt, for pronouncing my name correctly. He took a challenge to pronounce it correctly. I explained it to him and he did quite well. Thanks, first of all. So, yeah, last session of the day. I see some tired faces in the audience. And I know that I'm waiting between a networking session, where you can have a glass of wine or a pint of beer. And Matt, did you say I have an hour for this presentation?
What?
Sorry, I'm just joking. I'll finish on time. Yeah, so my name is Rahul Borkar. I'm a senior product manager with Amazon. And as Matt explained, I currently work on a product used by Amazon selling partners. It is a chatbot live chat solution. Yeah, that's the boring stuff. So, yeah, so before becoming a PM, I have traditionally done sales and marketing roles. So I was back in India where I was selling prepaid SIM cards in the rural markets. And then from there on, I moved to Amazon where I was selling advertising solutions basically, if you have heard of Amazon advertising. That's a massive business in itself. So I was selling those to Amazon selling partners. And from there on, I got into product management. However, I absolutely have no technical background or a software development background. And initially, it was a bit hard for me to get into product management, primarily because of two reasons. Obviously, I did not have product management background. Also because I did not have any technical skills which I could show. Although I'm an engineer, but it's just a degree on paper. So with that context, I want to start by sharing my first ever developer interaction. And then the situation was that I just got into the PM role, and we were trying to test a feature. And the feature did not have any UI, but it required testing through command line, for those who might be familiar with command line testing. And this is how the communication looked like. The demo machine runs on an Ubuntu EC2 instance and can be accessed only via core prod network via VPN. Upload data to S3 paths in the path X. Download owner certificate on your system. Run shell command to log into EC2 instance, colon, blah, blah, blah. Start a new shell screen session and then run sh-run-demo.sh. Do you see where this is going? The only word that I understood from this was VPN, because IT told us you need to connect to VPN to connect to Amazon network. So my first reaction after this interaction was this. So basically, in case you are wondering what this means, is that I felt bewildered, confused, lost, and I felt completely out of place. And I was like, what have I gotten into? So today I'm going to share my journey from someone who felt in all the interactions like this to someone who feels like this. So what I'm going to cover in the next 20-25 minutes are basically what are the technical skill sets and what exactly are technical skill sets, how important are these skill sets, what are the different situations in which these technical skill sets are required, what are the different PM skills or technical skills that you should learn as a PM, and how did I build these skill sets, and some resources which can help you to build these skill sets. So I'll start with the first one, like what exactly are technical skills. So as a product manager, you are responsible for the success of your product. You are supposed to act as the voice of the customer in the room, where you work with a lot of diverse set of stakeholders, like business managers, technical folks, design folks, and marketing folks. So specifically, when you work with any stakeholder, you need to understand the context that they are coming from and understand the language that they speak. And that is where these technical skill sets come in handy, where you need to interact with different set of technical folks. So technical skill sets, if I have to define them, they basically are any skill that is required to build the product and feature wishlist, and it is not just coding. So I would define it in three different domains. One is hardcore technical skills, where you need the skills to work with your developers. The second is the data skills, where you need to work with data engineers and applied scientists. And then the third one are your design skills, where you need to work with the design and UX folks. So the scope of this particular talk is focused mostly on technical and data skills and not on the design skills, and I'll keep it limited to software product development. So to go into detail of how important are technical skills, I'm borrowing this slide from a famous product thinker in product management community called Shreyas Doshi. I think someone had referenced him earlier as well. In case you are not following him on Twitter or on LinkedIn, definitely I would recommend to follow him. And this is what he has to say. So technical skills, first of all, is a nice to have skill for all PMs. It's not the most important skills. And as you can see, if I have to explain this chart, at the starting of your career or at a senior PM level, which is where I am at currently, the three most important skill sets that you need are your analytical sense, product sense, and execution sense. Now, these three different skill sets are a large enough topic in itself, and they deserve a separate talk on it altogether. But if I have to define them in short, it is basically your ability to visualize the vision of your product, the ability to communicate or to have a strategy for your product, to have an execution plan, and then being able to execute that plan, and finally be able to measure the success of your product. However, if you have the technical and design sense skills, it enables you to become better product manager, and it will help you become successful if you have these skill sets. And as you can see, as you grow in the career path to a group PM level or a VP product level, there are additional skills that are needed, but at every level, technical and design skills will help you become better and successful at each of these levels. So my take on technical skills is that every PM role is different, and you need a different level of technical skill sets depending on the role that you are in. However, a thumb rule to keep in mind is that you have to know enough to earn the trust of your engineering team. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are working or you are a product manager on a consumer mobile app where you are responsible for acquisition, onboarding, engagement, retention, and monetization. You really don't need to know or understand the low-level design of your product. However, you do need to understand how your product functions and what are the high-level design or what are the different technologies that are being used in your product. On the other end of the spectrum, you might be a product manager for a very complex technical product that is used by developers. And there, the level of skill sets that is required might be extremely high, where you need to understand the developer problems, and then you need to have the ability to think how can you solve that particular problem as a product manager. So now that I've explained what technical skills are, I'll go into the next part of the presentation, which is basically what are the different PM situations in which these technical skills come in handy. So the first one is your ability to write non-functional requirements. So as a product manager, I'm sure there might be a lot of product managers here. You might be writing something called as a business requirement documents or a product requirement documents or product specifications. So these are different terminologies that are used in different companies, but more or less they mean the same. So you define functional requirements and you define non-functional requirements. So functional requirements, in the first example, if you are a product manager for an e-commerce website, would mean that you are defining the login experience, you are defining the search experience, you are defining how the listing should look like, you are defining the checkout experience. But at the same time, what you need to also define is how scalable your product needs to be. So you need to tell your developers how much traffic do you anticipate for your product. Let's say during a particular sale event, the traffic might be 5x, or during a particular time of the day, the traffic might be 2x versus the other times of the day. So you need to be able to communicate to your developers on how scalable you want the product to be. In another example, where you are a product manager for a banking app, and then you are working on, let's say, a money transfer feature where you will define the sender details, the receiver details, the authentication, whether the sender has enough balance or not. These are the functional requirements. But other than that, what you would also define is the latency, which is like how fast you want the transactions to be processed. Now, you wouldn't want the transaction to be processed in 5 days, but what is the bare minimum expectation that you have for your product is something that you need to define in the non-functional requirements. The last one is basically the product's ability to handle personally identifiable information. This is becoming very important these days, where there are a lot of data privacy and regulations that are enforced by government. And if your product has a lot of customer data, like their name, phone number, email IDs, bank account information, then you need to tell your developers how you want to handle that data and how and where should that data be stored. So this is one situation, and there are more examples like this. There is availability. I'll not go. If you just Google, there are a lot of other kinds of non-functional requirements. But if you have a better understanding of technical skills, then you can get better at defining the non-functional requirements. So the next situation in which these skills come in handy are your ability to leverage technology for solving business challenges. So let me take a couple of examples here. So if you have a good understanding of machine learning and its applications, you can think, how can machine learning be leveraged to solve your business problem? So in the first example, let's say you are a banking product manager, and there are a lot of frauds which are happening in the space that you are operating in. If you can think of how can machine learning help you and tell whether a transaction is fraud or not, then basically you can think of ways on how to implement it. At the same time, if you have good understanding of machine learning, then you can think of what are the different customer recommendations that you can make. And the best example that I can give here is TikTok. So for people who are familiar with TikTok, it's the most probably successful social media app right now. One of the key successes for them to be the most successful social media app is their ML recommendation. And if you, as a product manager, have a good understanding of machine learning, you can think of the different ways in which it can solve for your business problem. The second one is blockchain. If you have a good understanding of blockchain and what it does, basically, then you can think in your own problem space. Let's say you are a product manager in insurance. You can think of it to apply it to smart contracts to ensure that once the terms are finalized, nobody can go ahead and change it later on. Or you can think of it if you are a product manager in the supply chain domain, how can blockchain's immutable ledger solve for your business problem? So this is the season of football, and I'm a big football fan, so I couldn't resist sharing this meme. If you have to make a technical trade-off and add value to technical decision, this is another skill. This is another situation when these skills come in handy. So let's say you are working on a feature and you expect the feature to be delivered in 2 weeks. However, your developer comes back and tells you that it will take 12 weeks. And you are like, are you serious? So let me explain to you with an example. So let's say you are working on a feature where your requirements are that you are wanting to build a flowchart feature, which is basically you can think of any tool and you want to visualize your work better and you want to build a flowchart feature in your product that you are operating in. Your developer comes back with 3 different technology choices. So this is basically you are not building something from scratch, but you are utilizing what is there in the market. And depending on your use case, you need to think what is the best technology solution that can benefit your product. So let's say in the first technology choice, which is flowchart.js, you don't need to understand what that is. But if you see there are certain limitations there that it has only about 8 different. So if you are trying to create a flowchart, you can add only about 8 different node types. But however, the integration effort there is about 2 weeks. So let's say you are working on a product which is like internal facing and it doesn't really require a very nice UI, then maybe that is the option that you go for. However, on the other hand, if it's a customer facing product and UI is the most important of what you want in the product, then you might go for a different technology solution, which is either Cytoscape or Joint.js. So the next situation in which these technical skills come in handy are your ability to understand, extract, and analyze data. So there are different situations in which these skills come in handy. The first one being that, let's say, you do not have a data engineer or a business analyst, and there is a leadership request that comes for product level metrics. If you have a good understanding of the data and if you can pull data yourself, then first of all, you'll be able to present yourself better in terms of in front of your management, and at the same time, you can make better decisions for your product. You can analyze your experiment trends better. If you are trying to A/B test a feature, you can analyze your trends better if you have a good understanding of data. And then if you are trying to work on any machine learning model, you can work with your applied scientists and explore the different training data sets that are available to solve that problem. And the last one in this space is basically your ability to simplify technical jargons to non-technical stakeholders. So do you remember the first example that I shared? Now, obviously, if I have to share the same demo with any non-technical person, I cannot just copy paste and do that. So in this particular space, if I have to do that, then the example that, and this is the little translation that I have done. So if I have to communicate this to non-technical folks, then I would tell them, okay, go and upload data by clicking on the upload button on this URL. I cannot tell them, go and log into Ubuntu EC2 instance. They wouldn't be able to understand what I'm trying to say. Or basically copy paste this in a new folder on your desktop. So, and so on and so forth. So basically the idea is that are you able to communicate to your non-technical stakeholders in a language that they understand by understanding what the technical team is trying to tell you, and what implications will that have on your product. So now that I've spoken about the different situations in which these skills come in handy, next I'm going to talk about what are the top technical PM skills that you should definitely learn. So the first one is your product and your company's data warehouse and SQL. Believe me, the moment you spend a lot of time in learning these, I'm sure a lot of you shy away from doing that, but this is the biggest benefit that I have gotten by understanding what is the company data warehouse. I also try to learn SQL myself and then try to pull data myself. If you have a good understanding of it, you can make better product decisions, and nobody can refute anything that is actual data. Next thing that you need to learn or basically have a good understanding of is the software development lifecycle. Like there are different companies using different methodologies. There is Agile, Scrum, Waterfall. How do teams operate in an Agile environment? What is sprint? How do teams do sprint planning? If you have a good understanding of that, you can add better value to your discussions with engineering team. The next one is how the internet works. I think this is like a no-brainer. You should definitely know how does internet work, what is IP, what is DNS server, how are different networks connected to each other. You should also have a good understanding of basics of system design and architecture and APIs that are used in your product. So you need to understand what are the different front-end technologies that are available in the market, what are the different back-end technologies that are available in the market, what are the different databases that are there, and what technology decisions have been made in your product based on the options that are available in the market. The next one is cloud technologies. I think this is again something that everybody should definitely know. We are living in an age of cloud. And if you have some understanding of what is AWS, what is Azure, what is Google's cloud platform, then it will make you understand and become better at understanding your product. And then the last one, but not the least one, I think every product manager should understand machine learning basics and its applications. And also the newer technologies that are relevant to your product. Okay, so next is how did I build these skill sets? So I did a lot of on-the-job learning. I did not have the luxury to spend some time in taking a course or something because I just got into the PM role, and as I explained earlier, I just started having developer interactions. So the first way is I made engineers my friends. Like I used to spend a lot of time with them. I used to ask a lot of questions to them. I used to request them their time to understand, to help me understand what is the high-level design of the product, what is the low-level design, what are the different technologies that are being used. I also participate in a lot of design discussions. So whenever you basically submit a feature request to the tech team, they will go back to the drawing board, see how the feature has to be implemented, and come up with the appropriate technical choices. So I would definitely encourage you to be part of a lot of design discussions. The third one is that, okay, Amazon is a very document-oriented company, so that's why you might see that my slides are really not that nice. But Amazon, the culture of Amazon enforces everyone to write a lot of technical design documents. And if your company has a lot of documentation on your product, definitely go ahead and review it even if you don't understand it. Because trust me, once you go into the details of it and you understand how your product is implemented, then you will be able to make better decisions for your product. The fourth one is, again, this depends on company to company. So there are a lot of companies which have a lot of internal resources, like they have talks, engineering talks, or resources or wikis which help everyone to understand better on what the technology is being used. And then for everything that you don't understand, there's Google. So yeah, so initially in my first 3 months, trust me, every meeting that I used to go in, I used to just write down the new terms that I've heard. And after the meeting, I used to just Google, okay, what is EC2? What is S3? What is Azure? What are these people talking about? And then try to connect the dots. I think the moment you start doing that, I think you will be able to understand better and participate better in the meetings. So the next one is what helped me is a lot of self-learning. So I have done a few external certifications related to machine learning, programming, and cloud. I'll also share some of the recommendations later. And I would definitely, it's not a 1 year or 2 year course, but like something which can be done in 4 to 6 weeks of time. It will give you an overview of what machine learning is, what is programming, and what is cloud, so that you can understand and participate better in the discussions. I read a lot of tech news and Substack. There are a lot of amazing writers out there. Just go to Substack and it will recommend you the top technical writers. And the beauty of it is that they explain it in a language that you can understand. It is not meant for technical folks. And I do a lot of bite-sized learning. So there are a lot of good LinkedIn and YouTube creators who create a lot of content meant for non-technical folks. And then they explain technical concepts in a non-technical language. So I definitely do that, spend 15, 20 minutes a day by going through what the creator is posting and then trying to absorb that information. And the fourth one is basically practicing what you learn. So obviously once you understand, if you are able to write a program by yourself or write a SQL query yourself or basically try to train a simple machine learning model yourself, you will be able to better understand and get better at that particular topic. And again, as I said, for everything that you don't understand, there's Google. Just go to Google and you will find a lot of resources anyways. So the last one is, as I mentioned before, these are some of the resources that help me. So there are, and all of these are free resources, except a few, I think. The certifications are paid ones. But there are good Harvard University courses which give you an overview of programming. There's LinkedIn Learning, which has a good course on technology for product managers. If you are interested in some cloud certification, there's A Cloud Guru and Linux Academy. I would recommend these. I've personally done the Coursera's Data Science Professional Certificate. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks of your time, but it is really valuable. It will help you understand the different machine learning algorithms that are there, and then how are those applied to different domains. And as I mentioned, I follow a lot of good LinkedIn creators. They just post like 2 minutes content which you can explain complex topics in simple words through images. There are good creators on YouTube who again do the same thing. And again, Substack, Justin is the person that I would recommend. And there's a SQL course that is there which you can use. So the key takeaways, I'm almost towards the end of my presentation, and then the key takeaways that I want all of you to have is you really don't need to know coding or have a technical degree to become a PM. Trust me, I did not know anything at all. The second one is, however, you will be faced with situations as a PM where you will need to have an understanding of the technical issue at hand, and you need to know enough to earn the trust of developers and empathize with them. And the most important one is you need to have that learning mindset. Trust me, if you don't have the learning mindset and you do not understand the technical aspects of your product, I think is my time up? I thought you're done. Okay. So yeah, with a good learning mindset, you can acquire these technical skills and become a successful PM with dedicated time and efforts. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, and thank you very much. And I hope that this session will help you become better than this guy. Thank you very much.
All right, jump into Slido with some final questions for Rahul. You nailed that joke at the beginning. You totally got me about having an hour to speak. Yeah, punching up, right?
Yeah.
Nailed it. The first example that you gave of the explanation from a technical resource was painfully good. Like, how many people have gotten those messages? And you're like,
yeah.
what?
I forgot to ask. I prepared the presentation, but missed that important part. So how many of you are developers in this room and have some kind of coding background? Okay, but did you get what the person was trying to say? At least some part of it? Okay, good. I absolutely did not understand anything.
It's so interesting because every team has a different tool chain, right? Tech stack, and so they just assume like, here it is. Here's the terms, here's the terminology. Oh, so good. We have a question. If a PM would have to learn one programming language, which one would you pick?
I asked this to my engineer. They said Python and Java. But yeah, these are the two you should learn. Python is more easy to learn because it is written in a very simple language, and yeah, Java if possible. But you really don't need to write complex. I have never done that. So whatever I need to do, I just ask my SD. That's what they are for.
Yeah, yeah. You talked a little bit about understanding the trade-offs of different technical approaches, and you showed an example of how you had rewritten those instructions for a non-technical person. I'd love to hear what recommendations do you have for us to communicate the decision that you made, for a certain technical solution to non-technical people? Because I think that's if you choose the 6-week approach versus the 2-week, you have to talk to your product lead.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? What advice would you have?
Yeah, so first of all, on the how do you translate it, I think you cannot do that yourself. First of all, I had to slow down my engineer. Hey, hold on, just explain me line by line what are you trying to say. And I'm translating this to a non-technical person. Does this make sense? And then, he used to give me feedback whether this works or not. And to answer your question on how do I make that. So if you saw those parameters, right? So these were the parameters which I told my engineer, saying that, okay, is it free or is it charged? What is the effort that is needed to integrate these? These are the requirements that I have, like I need 10 nodes or I need 20 nodes. And I do foresee that it has to be, it is not limited by what it is, and I can continue to add more features in the future. So if you are able to think, okay, like I explained earlier, like if it's an internal product, you really don't see a lot of things changing over the next 1 year in the product. You can make that choice and communicate the same thing to your developer, saying that, okay, this is something that I don't see changing over a period of time. What is the quickest and the fastest way we can get it implemented? Just let me know the limitation that this particular technology has.
Interesting. All right, let me just check. I'm not starting a fight right now, but there is a question on Python versus SQL. Y'all can fight over that later, but that's a good question. Also, people want to learn the read part of SQL first, right? Not the write part?
I mean, if you're able to read, I think you'll be able to write. It's, again, a very simple language.
Yeah, okay.
It just starts with select, like you select, if you are familiar with Excel, like you select the different columns and then you put some condition. That's what SQL is, literally. So, and again, Python or SQL, I think if I have to choose, it is SQL.
Yeah.
Because SQL will help you get better at getting your product metrics better.
It's so true, and thank you for pointing out SQL is not a programming language.
Yeah, it's not a programming language.
It's a wise product manager language.
Yes.
That's what it is. Yeah. All right, thank you so much for joining us on stage. Let's give one more round of applause, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to thank the speakers from today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.